As we begin the next chapter, it brings us to a temple for the celebration and the New Year countdown. With everyone celebrating and in a happy mood, the square is completely packed full of people. Just then someone announces over some speakers, "Can everyone hear me? We are about to begin the countdown. So everyone begin counting down with us when there is only 5 seconds left." 5. Within the last 5 seconds of the new year, our MC appears in the middle of the crowded area, wrapped in a blue aura, and with none the wiser, no one notices him just appearing out of nowhere. With everyone in the background roaring joyously and chanted 4. Our hero just stood there dumbstruck, with sweat trickling down his face, and he couldn't help but think, "Fuck." Looking downwards, he mumbles to himself, "I am back once again." Looking down at his trembling hands, he thinks to himself, "I am back, just before everyone gets abducted to that shitty game in that messed up world. Even though I managed to make it all the way to the final round. Killing me off like that. It was definitely done on purpose. Who kills someone because there isn't enough people?" Clenching his fist in rage, 3. On the countdown of 2, he exhales a long sorrowful breath and wishing he could stop time right about now, so he could come up with a decent plan. Because he has no more runes available. This is the last chance or everything will be for naught. With everyone begun to chant the final countdown, 1. Our hero with confidence and determination thinks, well, this is it, the final attempt. And in order to completely wreck this so-called game that everyone is forced into, and in order to accomplish what I couldn't accomplish with 99 attempts, I will need to bring at least 4 other people with me to the final round, as he putting his hands on his hood. And removing it from his head, he looks over to his right thinking, who would be the best fit to party up with. As we rewind time back to just a few seconds ago, this dull-looking guy with a couple notches in his right brow, he was celebrating with his friends, because this is the year that they finally become adults. You can hear one of his friends getting all excited and saying, "Finally! We can get rid of those fake IDs we have." And a guy with a buzz cut chimes in and asks, "So what is everyone going to do after graduation?" He then looks over to his right and asks the double-notched brow guy named Ryu Min, "What about you? What is your plans after graduation?" He looks at everyone and says, "Me? Didn't I tell you guys before?" Like a typical hood rat, he grins and says, "I'm going to become a gangster." The guy with the scruffy brown hair looks at his friend with a surprised look on his face saying, "You're nuts, man. One wrong move and you're dead." The buzz-cut guy replies by saying, "Shit, man, you were serious? I thought you were just messing around with us." Ryu Min just says, "I just want to live the way I want." The whole group just stared at him with deadpan faces. Then it changed to awkward expressions. They all thought the same thing, what a fucking psycho. After graduation. Yup, definitely cutting ties with this nutcase. But just then the buzz cut chimes in and asks, "So what about your errand boy? What are you going to do with him after graduation?" Ryu Min says, "Oh, you mean that poor and miserable bastard?" As he puts a finger to his chin and thinks for a moment, and says, "Well, I can't just let him go just because I graduate, right?" One of the other guys couldn't help but chime in by saying, "Damn. I almost feel bad for the guy. He probably believes that he will finally be free from you after graduation." Just then the buzz-cut guy chimes in and laughs and says, "Haha, this guy is definitely a demon in human skin." Double-notched brow, Ryu Min chuckles to himself, feeling proud and says, "He doesn't get a choice in the matter. I have to mess with him as much as possible." Just then Scruffhead says, "Yo, Ryu Min? Isn't that your errand boy just over there?" Just then someone announces into the speakers, "Everyone get ready to chant the countdown. We will begin from the last 5 seconds." With a deranged smile on his face, Ryu Min says, "Oh, yeah, that is definitely my errand boy. 5. 4. Looking over at our hero, Ryu Min notices something off. 3. 2. Feeling stumped, Ryu Min just stood there, staring at our MC, lost in his own thoughts. Just as our hero removes his hood, he stares back at Ryu Min without his previous low self-esteem, as if he is someone else entirely. Just then everyone roariously chants out, 1. Completely dumbfounded, Ryu Min thinks to himself, There is something definitely off about him today. With our hero just staring at him with a blank look, Ryu Min feels antagonized and blurts out, "What the hell is wrong with him? Why is he glaring at me like I killed his family?" The black-haired guy pats Ryu Min and says, "Just leave him alone for now. After all, it is going to be a new year, yeah. You will have plenty of time to mess with him another day." Ryu Min just glares at him and scoffs, "Bitch. You're lucky, they'll let it slide today." While they all just stand around and joking with each other, the fatty sniffles and says, "Guys, I am finally going to be an adult. Happy New Year, guys." Just then, out of nowhere, an angelic, yet a very seductive voice echoes out, "Humans are quite hilarious. They are all celebrating the new year. Without a care in the world, they don't even know what kind of massive predicament they are in for." Ryu Min pipes up and says, "Hey guys? Did any of you hear something?" "Nah man, I didn't hear anything." Just then Buzzcut mumbles, "What the? I definitely heard something just now as well." The angel, hovering in the sky and looking down on everyone, seeing them all look confused and completely oblivious, she then says, "It's actually hilarious. It's like watching a bunch of monkeys in cages at a zoo." As everyone looked up, everyone went into shock, and there was utter silence, wondering what the hell is going on. Then the murmurs could be heard going around, "Damn. Is that an angel? Are they shooting a movie during the New Year's event?" Scruffhead was just staring dumbfounded and says, "Man, if someone were to say that she was real, I would definitely believe it." Our hero just glances over and thinks to himself, he really couldn't blame them at all for thinking that. Because he too acted the same way as everyone else the first time. But now, our hero looks up and thinks, so it has begun. It is still depressing though, this would be his 100th time going through the same shit. Pfft. The angel chuckles to herself, "You trashy humans. It seems all of you have fallen for my beauty. But just to give you a warning, don't get any strange ideas stuck in your head, because I would never mingle with lowly vermin like you. Seeing all your reactions, you must be able to hear my voice, right?" Just then someone starts bellowing out with spit spraying everywhere and pointing his finger at her, "Hey! What's your deal? Are you a stupid cosplayer or something? And who the hell are you calling a vermin? You're just a flying roll of toilet paper." Shaking his head mentally, our hero just thinks, what a shame. This happens every time. The angel, just floating there in silence with her face resting on her hands, smiling. Instantly her demeanor does a 180 flip, and with an overbearing atmosphere, she only says, "How irritating." And with a pop, his head exploded into a gory mess, with his arms still extended outwards and pointing his finger. The guy next to him gets drenched in blood, completely shocked, and with trembling hands he looks down. He sees the blood all over him. He freaks out and loses his mind. With a thud, the body fell and everyone started screaming and stumbling over each other. While everyone else was scurrying around like ants, trying to just get away, Ryu Min gets startled from the odd sound of the guy's head exploding and yells out, "What the fuck was that?" Then everyone could feel their scalps go numb. From a seductive and angelic voice to a completely demonic shrill, the angel just bellows out, "How dare you, a lowly human trash, to speak to me like that in such a crude manner? Me, a higher being. You humans have no rights at all, so don't talk to me like we are equal to begin with." While everyone is still frightened and confused, she changes her tone and tries to explain things by saying, "Unless you want your head blown off like the previous scum, then listen up, because I will only say this once." As the angel spreads out her arms and wings open and hovers there trying to look all benevolent, back in her seductive voice once again, "I will explain this in a simple and easy way for your tiny little brains." While the angel goes off on her tangent, our hero could only sigh and lament in his heart, "I can't believe I have to listen to this once again." And with a beautiful smile that is radiating with a holy light, she says, "You will begin the game on the 1st of every month, for 20 rounds. Every human will be transported to another world in order to play this game. And in that world, you humans will have only one thing to do. And it is quite simple. You will have to complete a quest, and if you complete that said quest, you can return to your world, back in reality and with a reward." Ryu Min and his crew whisper between each other by saying, "Hey? Do you even know what she is talking about? Sounds like we get to live, as long as we complete some quests. The angel chuckles after hearing the duo speak and says, you might be thinking, sounds like she will let us live if we complete some quests. But honestly, not everyone gets to survive just because you completed the quests. Only half of you will survive, and only the first half that have completed their quests will be spared. Everyone was completely shocked, and with their mouths hung wide open, you can hear more murmurs going around complaining how it's unfair. The angel just laughs with glee and enjoying the look of devastation on their faces. She opens her mouth once again and says, you don't have to worry too much though, not everyone gets the pleasure of going. Only the humans between the ages of 15 to 29 from your planet get the luxury of participating in the fun. Our hero lifts his head and thinks back. I never would have expected the first time I had to go through all this. I would get to listen to the same spiel over 100 times. After listening to her explanation, some old dude that was just sweating buckets and a creepy smile on his face, fists pumps in the air and couldn't help but exclaim out loud, so I'm okay. I won't have to die. Hearing this, Scruffhead gets pissed off and grips the old man by his shirt and starts yelling at him. You old fuck. You're that happy you get to live? Why the fuck are you taunting us? Startled, the old man screams out for help. Ryu Min yells out, settle the fuck down. Can't you read the damn room? Didn't you see that guy's head explode just over there earlier? The angel of course was completely ignoring the fools down below. She says out loud, It looks like there is a total of 1,801,029,290 participants that get to participate. Now then, since I gave everyone the rundown, let's get started now, shall we? With a smile on her face, she envelopes everyone in a golden light. Then the next thing that happens, our hero opens his eyes and finds himself in a completely white room. Then he can hear the angel's voice once again, and she explains, now all of you should be in a white space. Before you get transport over, you will have to customize your avatar. Consider everything carefully, because you only get one chance, so choose wisely, enjoy and have fun. Our hero doesn't even need to think twice, because he has done this over 99 times already. And that also goes without saying, it's the same for his nickname as well. Our hero's name shall be Black Scythe. As the scene changes, it brings us to a wide open field, with lush green grass and some mountains in the background and some leaves softly fluttering through the air. Now our hero reappears, once again, for the 100th time. Fully generated and full of confidence, he could only think that this is it. The last time. Opening and clenching his fist, he thinks to himself, I have been using the same appearance since my 12th attempt. This body almost feels like my real body compared to the one in the real world. Just then more people start to appear one after the other, looking confused and some losing their shit, while the others are stoked. While our hero could only sigh, looking around at everyone that changed their appearances to look charming or beautiful, he could only sigh once again and thinks to himself that they really shouldn't have done that. They will only become a bunch of targets, because here in this world it's the survival of the fittest. If you die here you will actually die for real. Just then our hero looks over and thinks, it should be any time now. He's finally here, Ryu Min, walking like he owns the grassy fields here. PFFT, haha, what an idiot. He always picks the same shit and struts over with the same retarded smile, haha, what a clown, just like his personality. He's just a muscle-brained idiot. After thinking all this, the angel appears once again and hovers over everyone and giggles. With a single flap of her wings she says, you guys must be happy with your avatars, right? To be honest, I prefer your fearful faces instead all these ugly smiles though. But anyways, now that all 1.8 million people are here, let's begin, shall we? Then some idiot questions her, 1.8 million? It doesn't look like there is that many of us here. Flabbergasted, and with a deadpan face, she sighs and puts her hand on her head like she were to have a headache, and shakes her head and says, as expected of you lowly humans. She lashes out and says, do you morons think that this is the only space? There are multiple different other planes, managed by other angels, so focus on yourselves and progress through the rounds or die. It's quite simple, so shut up. Now before we really start, they'll give you a quick rundown, think to yourself, status, and a prompt will appear and show your stats. And it will give you a full rundown on all your info, from your levels, stats, skills, equipment, and so on. Our hero looking at his status page could only sigh. At least this should be the last time that I would have to start over from scratch. As the angel continues on with her explanation, she asks, does everyone see their status windows? If you have ever played a game before in your life, then you would have realized this now. Every single one of you are complete trash. If you become stronger and survive to the very end and clear the 20th round. She smiles and outstretches her hand and says, not only will you be free, but you will be granted with a single wish. Just as she finished saying that, everyone gets all excited and starts murmuring to themselves, but then just cuts everyone off and says, however, you will have to come in first in order to receive the wish. With a shit-eating grin she says, lastly, say inventory and look inside, because I left you a special gift in there. Ryu Min says inventory and gets startled, confused and a little shocked, and mumbles to himself, a random rune fragment? He puts his hand into his inventory and grabs the red shard. Then the angel explains, as you can see, this is what you call a rune fragment. It is a single-use item that gives you something at random, but there is a catch. It's a starter item, and it's only usable for those who are at level 1. In order to use the item, it is quite simple. Just grab it and say use. Just as Ryu Min says use, the red shard shattered in his hand and starts to swirl around in his palm. Completely caught off guard, Ryu Min opens his eyes wide in surprise and only says a single word, whoa. The angel just chuckles to herself in amusement, and says, by the looks of things, everyone's luck was split between everyone else. You get what you get, it's just the luck of the draw. Now then, since everything is now completed, let's get started now, shall we? She raises her hand into the air. And with a snap of her fingers, everyone gets a quest log prompt saying, slay 100 goblins per person, and it shows how many people are in each region and how many people have completed their quests. Then out of nowhere, a goblin digitally appears out of thin air. He was hunched over and was gripping a serrated dagger, and had menacing red glowing eyes. This confused a few people, asking each other, is that a goblin? Whoa! For real? It really is like a game. Is this a beta for a VR game or something? First we get kidnapped, and now we are lab rats? The angel just tells everyone to shut up and continues. Then she smiles and says, don't get too excited yet, because, as she spreads her arms out wide and with a bright smile on her face she says, not all the goblins have been summoned quite yet. Just then, hundreds if not thousands of goblins started appearing in droves. The sheer amount that got summoned scared the shit out of everyone. Some started to cower in fear and some others started stumbling and running. As the angel laughs out with amusement, and enjoying the expressions on everyone's faces, she then says, 10,000 humans versus 50,000 goblins, a fight to the death. Now begin. With a savage roar and spit flying everywhere, the goblins start rushing forwards. With this, the people that stood their ground before even started to become nervous, and a few other people started yelling at the goblins saying, no! Don't come any closer, stay away! And the epic Ki-ya! While everyone is trying to get as far away as possible from the goblins, one guy steps forwards. With a stoic and a nonchalant expression on his face, which surprises everyone, he just continues on walking. With his hands in his pockets, like he just out, having fun with a scenic stroll. This confused everyone, thinking he is mental. They yell out and tell him to come back because it's too dangerous. There is goddamn monsters over there. Our hero just ignores them, of course, and continued on, completely pissed off, and with a determined look he charged forward. And drop kicks and completely obliterated the goblin's face and thinks, this is the last fucking time. As we begin with another chapter, we are brought to a situation where a group of people are standing there with dumbstruck expressions plastered onto their faces. With their mouths are hung wide open. Within a group or organization, even society in general, first impressions are extremely important. And when you see someone charge forward, towards the monsters without any regard for their own life, while everyone else is fleeing for their lives. And literally drop kick a goblin in his face and obliterating it, it will, without a doubt, get engraved into their memories forever. With our hero making the first move and taking down the goblin with ease, it was a calculative move, in order to leave a certain impression, also to keep all the troublesome flies away. After catapulting the goblin away, he now has his first weapon. Picking up the goblin's dagger, our hero thinks to himself, the most important objective right now is to show off more of my strength. Looking up, towards the angel in the sky. I need to attract that thing's attention somehow, and in order to do that, I will have to put on a performance of a lifetime, for this sadistic bitch. As the goblins start rushing towards our hero, sporting shabby rags and crude daggers, our hero flips the dagger in one swift motion and charges forward, ducking in and out between each of the goblins and insta-killing them with a single slash from his dagger, which in turn grabbed the attention from the very same crowd that told him to run away. That's so cool. Did anyone else see that? Who is this guy? He has to be from the military or something, because no normal person should be able to move like that. As they were admiring our hero, they finally noticed they were getting encroached upon by some goblins. One of them stutters and says, "TT, they see can't be that hard to kill, right? They are usually the weakest mobs in games, right?" With intimidated looks on their faces, one of the other guys say, "We should be able to kill them too, maybe not as easily as Black Scythe." Another guy chimes in while rolling up his sleeves and says, "Yeah. They probably won't be too much trouble, we can actually mop the flow." Before he could even finish talking, he found a goblin already on top of him, which stunned everyone around him. With the goblin laughing maniacally with his dagger plunged right into the guy's gut, and everyone frozen in place. That was until someone screamed, "Yoa!" Then everyone scattered and stumbled everywhere in all directions screaming, "Save me!" After our hero just finished slashing open a goblin's neck, he glanced over his shoulder from the corner of his eye. It was complete pandemonium. Everyone was just running around, screaming and getting slaughtered. With this type of situation happening everywhere, for as long as they will live, they will never mistake this as a simple game again. With their friends and family getting butchered like pigs, one after the other, there would only be one thing left in their head, which would be their survival, to survive at any cost. Their survival instincts will kick in and people will start abandoning and betraying people left and right, leaving others to die at the hands of these monsters, because their instincts will be telling them to just run. Looking at this disaster unfolding in front of him, he could only sigh in his heart and not blame them at all. Thinking back to his first attempt, he did exactly the same thing as all these people. Only on his second attempt did he realize that running away is completely hopeless. That is because there is nowhere to run, we're trapped within a barrier. A guy with a dagger within his hand hesitates, and noticed the girl screaming and ran right into the barrier. For a normal person who hasn't even killed anything in their lives, will always hesitate to kill anything, even if that something is a goblin. But in order to survive in this game, you have to remove all your fears and overcome them and never hesitate, because that could very well mean your death. The angel, which is just floating in the air and observing the humans getting killed off one by one, and just chuckles to herself, thinking it is quite amusing, and says, "Kyo ho ho ho." It's quite entertaining to watch these lower beings fight for their lives. Even when they are the size of small children, they are quite savage and charging without any restraint. There is almost nothing a person can do when they're low-leveled and they charge at you wielding daggers. But then she looks over in another direction with her a smile filled with amusement, and says, however. She looks at our hero, that is dicing up goblins left and right, with their blood gushing out everywhere like he's strolling through a water park. She couldn't help but think, just what is that human? Is he even a human to begin with? She pulls up his info, which only shows his name and quest completion progress, looking down at his name, Black Scythe? When she tries to get more info she gets irritated. What the hell is going on? Why is the system concealing all his info? Getting frustrated. She closes the info prompt with a wave of her dainty hand and says, "Oh well, In any case, as a superior being, it kind of hurts my pride to guide these inferior beings, like I am some sort of shepherd, but seeing there is a few special cases here, I guess it is a little enjoyable to watch over them. The scene changes back to our boy where he gashes the goblin's face, soon after. Multiple system prompts appear one after the other. You have slain a goblin, plus 4% experience, plus 10 gold. You have leveled up. Defeated 75 out of 100 goblins. Our hero then dodges a projectile by bowing his back backwards. He then looks to his right and notices 5 goblins charging towards him in a frenzy. He just turned and dove towards them and started slaying them one by one with complete ease, as if they were frozen in place. Drenched in goblin blood, he twirls the dagger in his hand with complete mastery, and stares at the last goblin, which almost makes him shit in his shabby rags for clothes. Not wasting any time, he charges forward and plunges the dagger into the goblin's face. After removing the dagger from the goblin, he looks up with blood running down his face and asks, "Is anyone coming?" After getting back up and noticed that he intimidated the goblins enough for them to back off for a bit. With a sigh, he rubs his face with the back of his hand and smears the blood that coated him and says, "I guess it's time for a quick breather. I guess it's time to check my stats." He notices that he has leveled 3 times within a blink of an eye. Every time a person levels up, they get an additional 2 stat points. He then decides to add all his extra stats to dexterity. Dexterity increases both attack and movement speed. It also increases your chances of dodging. While pondering all this, our hero thinks to himself, during the early stages of the game, dexterity is probably the most important and versatile stat. With break time over and stats are taken care of, it's time to finish things up. Thinking this, our hero couldn't help but wonder if he managed to attract the angel's attention by now, and if not. Then the next thing you see is a dagger twirling right past the goblin's head and plunges directly into the head of a goblin that was directly behind him. With his hand still extended outwards, he taunts the remainder of the goblins by saying, "What? Are you not coming?" Seeing them not moving, he just sighs and says, "I guess not." Then, as if he teleported, he appears right next to the dead body, and retrieves the dagger he just threw and says, "I guess it'll have to come to you then." The goblin, startled, tries to turn around quickly, only to get caught up in a whirlwind of an attack, with him and his fellow brethren hacked into pieces. With that, our hero gets multiple prompts saying, "You have leveled up, killed all 100 goblins, and he has completed the quest." Then our hero gets encased in a golden barrier. He couldn't help but think, "I guess I passed the first round without any trouble." The reason why he went on a huge slaughterfest was to catch the angel's attention. Then another prompt appears, "Congratulations. You have completed the quest and came in first place within your current region." Followed by another prompt right after saying, "Congratulations. You have completed the quest and came in first for the entire region." Which was then followed by the leaderboard appearing, showing our hero that he nailed first place for the first round, within 10 minutes and 21 seconds for the entire region. As our hero was feeling smug, looking at the leaderboard thinking, "To think I would get first place in the entire region as well." Which is perfect because one can get a better reward for the time completion for each round. But obviously that would also depend on your base standing in the top 3 as well. As he was thinking this, received yet another system prompt informing him, "For coming in first place in your current region, you received a low-rank rare weapon ticket," followed by another prompt saying, "As a reward for placing first in your entire region, you received a special reward selection chest." Stoked, he instantly opens up his inventory and decides to use his weapon ticket first that he has received from the current region reward. When used, it gave him 3 options to pick from: a menacing long sword, a stiletto, and a javelin. While looking at his options, he pauses for a second. He couldn't help but feel a little grateful to receive something this useful, so early into the game. Already made up his mind, he places his finger on his selection. With a ding, a system appears saying, "You have obtained the stiletto." As he rads out the following details: stiletto, type, weapon, rank, rare, attack, 15, effect, +1 to dexterity, durability, 150/150, restrictions, for beginner rank and above. Description: the best weapon among daggers, even a beginner could use it. Now with our hero getting a new weapon, he tosses the goblin's dagger onto the ground like a piece of trash. While thinking of what he should do next, he decides to leave the selection chest he has received from the entire region reward for later. He touches the X to exit from his inventory. While our hero is lost in his own world, the people all around him are running around, screaming and trying to stay alive the best that they can. Not even paying attention to all the suffering that is happening around him, still in deep thought with a finger on his chin, all of a sudden, realization dawned upon him. He exclaims out loud, "Oh! Now that I think about it. The title I got. The Last Time Traveler, this is something new. I never have received this during my 99 attempts before." He then pulls out the rune fragment from his inventory and says out loud, "Use." After using the shard, a bunch of prompts followed suit. "You have used a random rune fragment. Congratulations. You have obtained the time reversal rune. The rune will now automatically be engraved into the player's body. Vestiges of the selected rune are already in the player's soul. Due to the special properties of the rune, the engraving failed. While looking at the prompts, he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Of course, this would be the natural result. Otherwise, I would have endless time reversal runes. While lost in his thoughts, a few more prompts appear. Due to the vestiges of the rune engraved in the soul, you have been identified as a time traveler with 100 travels. Followed by, you have obtained the title Last Time Traveler. Seeing this, our hero was surprised, so he instantly pulled up his title information, because the concepts of titles are even above rune. Title: Last Time Traveler. Unlocked conditions: obtain 100 time reversal runes. Effect: upon death, remain in the same spot for 1 minute in spirit form. When desired, you can resurrect with full health. A one-time ability. Once used, the title will disappear upon resurrection. Titles are much stronger than runes and insanely more difficult to acquire. As such, resurrection is a skill that is exclusive to priests, and even that skill is limited to 30% recovery after resurrection. But my title resurrects me with full recovery. Thinking this, our hero couldn't help but laugh and smile. I have just received something incredibly broken. As we begin another chapter, it brings us to where our hero is thinking how he just received something that is absolutely broken. Looking at his title, the system gave him a couple of options, between having his title shown to the public or having it kept private. It didn't take much for him to decide, because he always thought that it would always be for the best to keep your cards hidden, so he decided to switch his title effect to private, which will still have the effects applied. With that taken care of, our hero stretches lazily and takes a quick look around for any familiar faces. Only to find Ryu Min gripping a dagger with both hands like an idiot, as if it were a claymore. Smirking, well, at least he has survived so far and he should manage to pull through based on his current condition. Just then the angel's voice echoes out by saying, "No wonder things are getting boring as of late. Just look at all of you, in such a sorry state. I can't help but feel a bit sorry for you guys. Your weak and pitiful beings are getting killed off one by one. Well, I guess that could have been my fault though, for outnumbering you, and for that I apologize. It was my mistake." She spreads out her wings and clasps her hands together, giving off a holy aura, and says, "Well, shall we make things more entertaining then?" A blonde-haired girl with tears streaming down her face with a look of utter despair, looks up at the angel while holding someone dear to her and mutters, "Make things more entertaining?" Then she feels like something is amiss, so she looks down and notices the guy she was holding onto for dear life started to fade away into bright particles of light. Then murmurs of confusion and looks of anguish started to spread like the plague. While both humans and goblins alike were disappearing into particles of light, the corpses are disappearing. What the hell is going on here? While everyone was still lost and confused, there was a blast of bright light that appeared out of nowhere that made everyone squint their eyes, and when the light finally receded, people opened their eyes to see what the commotion was all about. They were shocked. They were once again face to face with yet another endless horde of goblins, rushing at them. The angel with her hands still clasped together and laughing joyously and says, "There you guys go. I gave you another fill of 50,000 more goblins. So enjoy. I'm sure everyone will have fun in killing their share of goblins now." Looking at the horde of goblins, everyone just gritted their teeth, still lost in a mixture of feelings between confusion, anger and bloodlust. Then someone in the crowd yelled out, "Kill." Then they all started to chant, "Kill! Kill! Kill them all!" as they stampeded towards the goblins. As people started to blindly stabbing, and goblins flying, and eye gouging, and with blood spraying, and neck crushing. With all those things happening in front of our hero, he just sat there with his eyes closed, lounging on the grass, completely ignoring it all. While others were trying to get out of the barriers, but unable to do anything except watch their friends get slaughtered all around them. While the angel just looks down, smirking while enjoying the chaos she has brought about. While our hero just looks up and thinks to himself, it should be about time. With alarm bells ringing, and everyone that had completed the quest has received a system prompt saying, "Quest completed 5,143 out of 5,143. Once the quest was completed, all the remaining goblins just vanished into thin air, which confused a lot of people because during mid-swing with their daggers, their targets just vanished in front of their eyes. Just then, the angel announces out to everyone with her angelic voice and says, "Congratulations! Half of you have now completed the quest for the first round. And for the other half that hasn't completed the quest in time, well, you can just die. Unfortunately, those are the rules, after all." With looks of anguish and despair, they all started to plead for more time, and how everything isn't fair. While the people that have completed the task could only look on with horror and feel sorry for them as they slowly disappear. Now, with only the people that have completed the quest remaining, the angel asks in a cheerful tone, "What is wrong with all of you? What's with the gloomy looks? Shouldn't you all be happy you're still alive?" Just then, she starts clapping her hands together like she is praising everyone for a job well done and says, "Congratulations on passing the first round. But hopefully you will do a lot better the next time. But before I send you all home, why don't we settle everyone's positions and rankings first?" She then announces, the top 3 in the first round for the entire region division. We have in first place, Black Scythe, cleared time in 10 minutes and 21 seconds. Second place is Stupid Idiots, cleared time in 16 minutes and 15 seconds. And in third place is Heavenly Demon, cleared time 17 minutes and 7 seconds. Now for your current region division, first place is Black Scythe, cleared time 10 minutes and 21 seconds. Second place is Life is a Documentary, cleared time 23 minutes and 55 seconds. And in third place is Black Dragon in My Right Hand, cleared time 24 minutes and 43 seconds. Just as she finished announcing the top 3 rankings, our hero gets a few system prompts saying, Black Scythe is ranked first in the entire region and ranked first in the current region, and will be awarded with the following rewards: 1 low rare rank weapon ticket, and 1 special reward selection chest, and 1,000 gold. Followed by another prompt saying, "You have received 1,000 gold for clearing the quest. You will also be able to use the acquired gold once you unlock the shop functions at level 10. Once our hero finished reading all the prompts, all of a sudden, he felt multiple gazes on his back. Looking over his shoulder, he noticed people gawking at him. Turning away with a smirk, he couldn't help but think, well, I guess everyone knows I'm ranked in first place now. Just then the angel interrupts our hero from his thoughts of self-grandeur by saying, well, isn't this quite a surprise? For the first ranker for the entire region to come from my area, this is quite splendid. Black Scythe, was it? Will you allow me to ask you a question? Our hero, with a nonchalant attitude, looks up at her and replies by saying, by all means, ask away. As she chuckles to herself and says, thanks. I'm quite intrigued though. I'm wondering if you could tell me how you got so strong. Or by any chance, did you perhaps acquire a special rune or something? As she giggles again, trying to be coy. but internally she's screaming in frustration. Ugh. Damn it. What did this little bastard get? Our hero looks up at her and says in a playful manner, I mean I could, but wouldn't it just be easier for you to look at my status window? Taken back by his answer, the angel stutters a bit by saying, WL. Oh, of course I can. As she shrugs, trying to play it off, and says there is no way I, an angel, wouldn't be able to see all your information, right? I was only testing you. After hearing this, our hero couldn't help but scoff internally. Ha, what a joke. Trying his best, with his most amiable smile, and says, Miss Angel, could I make a request? Instantly her demeanor changes, and with a serious expression, she looks at our hero like he's a goddamn bug. And our hero just returns her gaze without saying anything, or even expressing anything on his face. She replies by saying, a request? And what would this request be? He folds his arms across his chest and says, well, to be honest, the rewards for the first place feels a bit lacking compared to what my rank is. When everyone heard this, everyone was utterly and completely stupefied. While everyone was completely dumbstruck, the angel was thinking something else entirely, trying to hold back her rage, and you can hear the malice in her tone of voice. She barely mutters out by saying, What? What did you just say? Not even bothered with the changes in her demeanor, and nonchalantly says, Yeah, I was hoping that you could give me something better? Barely holding herself back from just annihilating the person before her, and just in case she heard wrong, she repeats the same question, What did you just say now? Human? With the exact same attitude as before, our hero replies in a more simple context, I simply don't like the rewards I have received, so I would like you to give me something better. After talking to the angel like she was an idiot, the entire surroundings turned completely silent. It got so quiet, it was like he even slaughtered the damn crickets in the area, while everyone just stared at our hero like he is the biggest moron in the world. Extremely pissed off and feeling aggrieved, her face morphs into a savage grin, like she would just eat him entirely whole. She thinks to herself, who the fuck is this guy? Is this fucking piece of shit really so daring to make a request of me? And I thought I would just keep an eye on him because he caught my interest. But to think that he would look down on me just because he killed a few fucking low-leveled monsters. The fucking nerve of this trash. I will just destroy him and be done with it. Just as she extends her hand out, she pauses for a moment. Thinking back to the beginning of the day, she curses out once again. God damn it. I already used my one-time ability to kill that insufferable scum earlier. As she clenches her fist in frustration and anger, and thinks, it's not like I can just kill him out of nowhere either, god damn it. Then out of nowhere, she came to a realization, huh? Now hold on a second. With a devious smile that held nothing but malice, and think to herself once again, yes, this could work. I know what I could give this greedy human. Looking down at our hero, she says, you want a better reward, right? She then lands on the ground softly, and slowly walks over to our hero and says, normally I wouldn't even bother to entertain the idea. Not just anyone could be allowed to ask for a request, but for you. With a wave of her hand, she removes the barrier around our hero, and says, to be so bold is enough to commend you as well. Come now, let's have a private chat, shall we? She then looks over to the others and says to them, just hold on for a few moments until I return. Our hero just agrees. He then throws his hands into his pockets and starts strutting towards the angel, which completely baffled everyone. People started to murmur amongst themselves, by saying that they wished that they could have came up with such a novel idea. Just as he was about to walk past Ryu Min, he stops and glances over at him. Ryu Min just stares back at our hero, thinking, huh? With a smirk, our hero then just turns around without saying anything at all, which confused Ryu Min even more, wondering what the fuck was that all about. As the scene changes, it shows our hero trailing behind the angel, walking down some path hidden behind some foliage. With our hero falling behind, the angel starts complaining. She then turns around and asks him, why are you so slow? Keep up with me, or are you going to keep making me slow down for you? Our hero just replies by saying, "Sure." Like he couldn't even care less with whatever she said. Which aggravates her even more. Damned humans. They only listen if you yell and complain. For them to be so greedy, you would think they would listen more or be at my beck and call trying to suck up to me or something. Thinking this, she calms herself down, because she still hasn't figured out a way to replace whatever rune he has received. But even if I could, it's not like I can just replace something the system has already given to him. Screw it. With a deranged grin plastered all over her face and thinks to herself, I will just have to show him what happens to greedy pigs. Once we pass that rock over there, I will chop off all his limbs and feed them to him. But if something were to happen, this could backfire and cause some problems for me. If someone were to find out I killed someone for a personal reason without my one-time ability. But if no one has seen it happen, then I can just say I sent him home first with his reward. Feeling elated with her plan, she breaks out into a savage grin once again and laughs maniacally in her own head. This stupid human pig. You should have been smart, and stayed quiet, and accept your reward without any complaints. Changing back to her cheerful demeanor, she turns around with a smile and says, So about your reward, tell me what kind of reward you want? Just as she finished talking, she was absolutely confused about what was happening in front of her, 'cause the only thing she saw was a fist in front of her face, which then landed on her delicate, bitch face, which in turn sent her catapulting through the air screaming like a pig. As she screamed out with a mixture of shock and disbelief written all over her face. As we begin with this chapter, it brings us to where we left off from the previous chapter, when the angel gets smashed in the face from our hero and sent catapulting through the air. As our hero just looks down on the angel, with her face just a few inches from eating dirt, while struggling to move and completely confused after she got slugged in the face. In shock, feeling liquids run down from her face, as she wipes her nose and looks down at her hands, only to notice that there is her own golden blood all over her hand. With her mind still in a daze, she could only think, What? What is this? Is this my blood? Did that bastard punch me just now? After connecting the dots together, feeling the rage and anger build up from within her, she clenches her teeth together and turns around screaming and getting ready to rip his head off, saying, You human trash! You dare! Huh! He disappeared? Where the fucking hell did he go? While she was still dazed and confused of her surroundings, our hero appears directly behind her and reaches out and latches onto her wing with a death grip. Startled, she instantly turns around to look behind her, only for our hero to grab her from the back of her neck and start yanking on her wing, making the angel scream out in pain and horror. Wait. What are you trying to do? Sto, stop it. Our hero just listens to her scream and carry on with an expression that he doesn't hate nor enjoy doing what he's doing. But he certainly doesn't stop either. Instead he pulls even harder, until finally he pulls with more force that was followed by a snap. And her wing gets ripped right off her, that was followed along with her golden blood spraying out like a fountain. As she's screaming out in pain, with her feathers flying around everywhere, our hero just looks down at her with zero emotion and tells her in a cold tone, Shut up and quit being a little bitch. As the angel was laying down on the ground, sniffling and holding her shoulder with the missing wing, our hero steps on her back to get more leverage and grabs her other wing. And with better positioning than before, our hero rips the last wing off with ease and says to her, Now that you can't fly away. So? Tell me, how does it feel? It hurts, right? The angel tries turning around, with a trembling body and with heavy labored breathing with sweat and tears flowing down her face. She barely mutters out, Obviously it does. Our hero just laughs at her response and says, If it would have been just another 5 more minutes, it would have been me down there, while you asking me the exact same question, making your disgusting, kiki laughing sounds. Hearing this, the angel gets all defensive and starts yelling, What are you talking about? Have you gone mad? What are you even talking about? He bends over and looks at her with a deadpan face and lifts her wing before her and says, Does this dagger look familiar? You were going to use it and try killing me with it, were you not? After listening and seeing the dagger, she just went silent without knowing what to say. Our hero just tosses her wing over his shoulder like some trash and says, I knew it. Stuttering, the angel says, what do you mean? Kill. I never had such a plan to. Our hero just cuts her off with a smile that was filled with amusement and says, there is no point in lying. Just one look at your face right now and it tells me everything I need to know, isn't that right? Burial? With a look of utter shock and confusion, she asks, How? How does a mere mortal, a human, know my name? As our hero just listens to her ramble on, he calls out his inventory and takes out his dagger and says, Oh, about that, there really isn't any point in you knowing about the how or why. Seeing the dagger in his hand, she gets nervous and screams out in fright, What are you doing? What are you going to do with that? Our hero just looks down at his dagger and with a serious expression and says, Oh, are you an idiot by any chance? Couldn't you figure that out all on your own? How have you gone insane? As she points her finger at him and shouts, If you get any closer, you will die. I will make your head explode. It will be quite easy, with a single snap of my fingers, and you will. Our hero cuts her off, Just stop it. And with a sly smile plastered onto his face he says, You don't have that ability anymore, do you? With her eyes wide open and with clenched teeth, thinking to herself, How the fuck? Do you think you can get away with this? If my comrades ever find out about this, they just won't sit by and let you get away. They will hunt you down. Our hero just looks at her like she is an idiot and says, Comrades? What comrades? You angels are all the same. Sadistic bastards with massive egos. They won't give a shit whether you die or not. They probably would only be pissed that they didn't get to watch you die. Anyways, enough of that. Let's send you off now, shall we? As he starts walking closer to Burial, she starts waving her arms frantically saying, Sto, stop. You want benefit at all from killing me? Our hero stops and says, Oh? But I will. Unfortunately you won't be around to see how though. Burial starts stuttering. But you will regret killing me because you will be trapped here. You won't be able to return home without me. Our hero just laughs with contempt and says, Pfft. Really? We are in the system, where I will automatically return once the settlement is over. Burial, completely dumbstruck, just blurts out, How? How do you even know that? Just give me one more chance. Oh, right. Do you want information? I can tell you anything you want, just please. Our hero just replies back with all seriousness and says, I simply don't need it. If I needed any information from you, I would have just simply tortured you and found out everything I wanted to know, such as your kind's type of ecosystem, your purpose in all of this, and the fact that you are nothing but a chess piece in the system, playing the role of a guide for the players. Just then, as if her mind just shattered into a million pieces, she could only mutter, What? How? When? Before she could even say anything more, our hero disappears and reappears instantly right before her, and plunged his dagger directly right through her heart, making her cough out a mouth full of blood. And with a thud, she flops over onto the ground dead. And with a ding, our hero receives multiple system prompts, one after the other, like he just won the lottery. An angel has been slain. It have been confirmed that you are the first player to kill an angel, followed by, you are awarded with the title the first angel slayer. You have also been awarded with angel's blood for the first kill of slaying an angel. You have also been awarded with the rune of slaughter, for killing an angel. Looking down at the items in his hands he couldn't help but think, as expected, this time I get the first to get the first blood reward. Grabbing the rune in his hands and says, Use, with a ding, he gets another prompt saying, the acquired rune has been automatically engraved onto the player's body. The current rewards are given to the player who kills an angel first and would receive the title, the first angel slayer, and to acquire the title, you have to be the first person to kill an angel. You will also get all your stats doubled when facing any sacred beings. When our hero first learnt about the types of rewards, was during his 13th attempt, maybe because it's a reward only one person can acquire. but it is comparable to a unique item, such as this butcher rune. Every time a target gets killed, all stats rise by 1%, with a stack maxed at 100% until the round is completed. Looking at his rewards from killing Burial, our hero couldn't help but smirk. If the angels ever found out that I have acquired a rune so early, they would definitely stain their white feathered asses. And the main reason for killing Burial, besides her being a bitch, was for this. Angel's Blood. After reaching level 10, I will be able to change my class to the Reaper class, which is a unique, hidden class that will only be awarded for the first kill of an angel. All players can get their classes once they reach level 10, and there is a total of 30 different classes available, and changing a class is quite simple as well. You just have to get a class change item. You can get them from hunting monsters or certain quests, but there are a few exceptions. And that is when changing to a unique classes, which only one person can obtain at a time, and only under special circumstances. And of course, unique classes are in a total league of their own, from their bonus stats, advanced runes, skill compositions, and so on. That being said, he scrolls through his inventory. It's time to use my other award for placing first in the entire region. You may select one from the following 3 options for your reward. 1. 3 times experience buff for 2 rounds. 2. 2,000 gold. 3. Information regarding the second round. Not even thinking twice about what he wanted out of the 3 selections, because the most important goal right now is to reach level 10 as fast as possible, in order to get my class change. By selecting the first option, our hero received a system prompt saying, "You have selected option 1, which will give you a 3 times experience buff. The buff will automatically be applied, starting from the beginning of round 2. As he looks down at the dead body of Burial, that is dispersing into particles of light, and with all seriousness, he couldn't help but think to himself, this is it. The last and final attempt. I have to get stronger by any and all means necessary. Ding! Round 1 has ended. The total survivors from all regions is 900,514,645, and your current region's total survivors is 5,143. The next round will begin on February 1st, 2023. Congratulations for everyone surviving the round. We will see you next time." As the scene changes, it brings us to Ryu Min, getting his soul transferred back to his body, sweating and gasping for air. Ugh! Looking around his surroundings and feeling lost. This is the temple square? Shocked, he couldn't help but wonder what the hell happened. Looking around, seeing everyone holding their heads tightly and murmuring to themselves out loud, he couldn't help but think to himself, Did everyone collapse and faint like me? Not to mention the weird dream I just had. Looking down at his phone, and he couldn't help but gasp in shock. Fuck. It's 5:20? It's the same time as when I left that dream. But how? Then he notices his friends groaning out loud, Scruff Head holding his head and says, "Fuck my head," while Buzzcut says, "Ugh. My limbs, no scratch that, my entire body feels like it got hit by a truck." Looking at his friends and feeling a little concerned and says, "You guys alright?" Scruff Head looks over and says, "Ryu Min? What the fuck happened? Did I pass out or possibly get drugged or something?" "Yeah, about that. Look around. It wasn't only us. But everyone woke up at the same time and the exact same way just now." Scruff Head blurts out in shock, "What? Everyone passed out? All at once?" Buzzcut also butts in and says, "Yeah man, what the fuck is going on? I even had a weird-ass dream." "Yeah man, me too." "Ryu Min, did you also have that fucked up dream as well?" Ryu Min looks over his and says, "Yeah, but..." As he looks around at everyone else, and seeing them struggling with reality, and he listening in to what everyone is saying, it was a dream. But was it really a dream? Or did everything actually happen? Round 1, and goblins? Then, will we all be sent back next month? Just then Ryu Min notices that Fatty still isn't getting up yet, and says, "Hey guys? Why isn't Fatty getting up?" As he tries shaking him with his foot to wake him up, getting curious, Scruff Head calls out, "Hey man, get up. Hey Kim. Kim Tae-shik. As he reaches out his hand and starts shaking him, he then starts to freaking out and says, "Hey man, get the fuck up." And he rolls HM over onto his back, only to notice his pale-looking complexion. He slowly puts his wrist over his mouth and nose and says, "No way," with a trembling hand. He flops back onto his ass and says, "Fuck. Guys? He's not breathing, I can't feel a pulse either." Shocked and in disbelief, Ryu Min mumbles, "Tae-shik died." Just then Scruff Head went completely pale from his thought, thinking he blurts out, "No way. Did he? Did I? Because he didn't survive inside the game?" Then Buzzcut looks around at everyone that is still lying down on the ground not moving and panics and says, "No way." Then, everyone that hasn't woken up yet is dead? No way. They are all dead? Just a bunch of corpses laying around everywhere. Impossible. That is literally half of us. That has either survived or died. Ryu Min, looking around with a trembling body, also just came to the same realization and starts shaking even more. And starts to go into a cold sweat and starts thinking, "This is insane." And as if something snapped inside of him, he loses his shit. As we begin another chapter, it starts us off with Ryu Min is standing there, panting heavily with a crazed grin, as if he has utterly lost it, while murmuring to himself, "With everything that has just happened, then doesn't this mean that everyone can live equally? And then there wouldn't be anyone who could complain that life is unfair." Finally calming himself down, Ryu Min looks over at his friends who were also losing their shit and says, "Alright guys. Calm the fuck down, what is there to even worry about? We just have to survive, right?" Acting like it's no big deal, while Scruff Head was bent down with his knees tucked to his chest in a fetal position and holding his head, crying out, "This is totally unfair. Who the hell wants to die so young without a chance to fool around?" Ryu Min just looks at his friend as if he were an idiot and said, "How is this unfair? Look around you. It's not only us that has gotten caught up in all this mess." While his friends just look at him with an expression that they have just eaten some shit. Buzzcut turns his head and sighs and says, "You got to be kidding me, right? Your whole life you were a thug, and when you graduated you wanted to become a gangster. So you probably don't have much to live for, unlike me, so you can't compare yourself to me." Buzzcut then notices that Ryu Min wasn't even paying attention at all, and he sighs once again and says, "What the hell are you looking around for?" Ryu Min just replies by saying, "I can't seem to find that little errand bitch of mine anywhere." As he ponders to himself, "I am pretty sure I saw him just over there prior to our abduction. It is also possible that he hasn't survived the first round as well." After chuckling to himself and shrugging, "Who am I kidding? How could that weak son of a bitch survive where many others couldn't?" Just then, from the corner of his eye, he notices a guy walking around wearing armor. Confused, he couldn't help but wonder, why the hell would someone wear something so goddamn tacky? Then all of a sudden he came to a realization that made him feel excited with a little anticipation as he calls out "Status window." Just then, his status window appeared before him. With his eyes as wide as his mouth, he couldn't almost believe it, so he blurts out loud in excitement, "It actually opened. I have a fucking status window." His friends just look over at him and ask, "What the fuck are you talking about? What status window?" Just as Scruff Head finished replying, his status window appeared before him, which made him jump back in fright. Ryu Min looks over towards his friends that were just looking off into space. He couldn't help but ask, "What the fuck are you guys doing? Why are you guys just staring off into space with that dumb look plastered all over your faces?" As he chuckles to himself, Scruff Head looks over at him and says, "Huh? What do you mean? Isn't that what you're doing? I guess you can only see your own status windows." Just then, Ryu Min bends over and picks up a rock from the ground. As he gripped the rock in his hand, and with a little bit of pressure the rock got crushed into pieces. As he looks down at his hand and watches the ground-up debris sliding right through his fingers, he couldn't help but exclaim with an expression like a third-rate villain and says, "This is fucking awesome." As the scene changes, it brings us to a news station that is reporting that during the New Year's event, at the Temple Square over 10,000 civilians has lost their consciousness simultaneously, and there are reports from multiple individuals that are saying that an angel has descended above the Temple Square, announcing her presence. Then an altercation happened between the angel and a man. It was then followed by an explosion that had killed the individual, with no eyewitnesses of how it actually happened. The angel then spread out her wings, which engulfed everyone at the Temple Square in a bright golden light, which shortly after caused over 10,000 civilians to suddenly collapse on the spot. According to the police reports from the scene, everyone between the ages of 15 to 29 years old are the only ones that have been affected. It has also been reported that this event has occurred across the entire world. As the scene changes, it brings us to our hero, that is scrolling through the comments that has been posted about the news report. As he is staring at his phone and thinking to himself, so, it has begun, I don't have much time left to get started. As he puts his phone away, he looks at the news that is being broadcasted through a window from a television store, with a reporter saying that around 5:20 this morning, roughly half of the citizens that has collapsed regained their consciousness, while the other half have been diagnosed to be brain dead. As he is watching the report, he couldn't help but mutter, sure, the deaths are a big deal, but the real issue lies elsewhere. The main issue is the fact that everyone can bring back their equipment and use their abilities in reality. It won't have much effect on society right now, but everyone will eventually become much stronger once they start to increase their levels. They will be different entities entirely, they will become uncontrollable, and even the nation's military won't be able to do a single thing to suppress the players. That being said, our hero could only think, I have to hurry, otherwise the Earth will be in ruins way before we even make it to the 20th round. The only solution is to become strong enough to overwhelm all the players and take control of the situation. And because I need at least 4 other players in order to reach the end boss, I will have to do things completely different this time around. I do have a couple people in mind and a few methods to recruit them, but it's way too early to act right now. Plus, I have way more important things I have to attend to first. As he walks in through the door of his apartment, he looks over to his right and notices an empty cup of noodles on the counter. He couldn't help but shake his head, that brat, he only ate a cup of ramen again for dinner. He then opens the bedroom door and walks in. He notices his little brother still passed out. He couldn't help but smirk and think, this little punk, to think he could just go to bed and sleep, even before his older brother could get back home. This is our hero's younger brother. His name is Ryu Min. He is only in his 3rd year of middle school. And they were both raised in a loving family of 4. But one day their parents were killed in a traffic accident, making things drastically change overnight. And the most difficult change of all was the fact that our hero became the only guardian available to take care of his younger brother. As our hero stood there, he notices the band-aid on his brother's hand was coming off. So he presses it back down to reattach it to the back of his hand. With that done, he couldn't help but think, now then, time to wake this little bastard up, so he flicks the lights on. As one stirs in his sleep, he notices the lights were on, and opens his left eye. He then sits up and noticed his brother sitting down next to him and says, Young? Our hero just tells him, it's time to get up, it's morning. Rubbing his eyes, one looks down at his phone and notices that it is 6 in the morning and says, What? Are you serious? It's way too early to. Before he could even finish talking, he gets startled because our hero yanks the blankets off of him. While our hero stood there, with a blanket in one arm and a shirt in the other, and says, We don't have time to be sleeping all day, we got to go. Which confused one, so he asks why, what happened? Our hero only told him, We don't have time, just get dressed and I'll explain on the way. With a lazy yawn, one grumpily mumbles out, But it's way too damn early, if you're going to tell me to get up to watch the sun rise or something, I'd rather stay home and go back to bed. Our hero then says in a stern voice, 1. Just listen to me, we don't have time to sleep and relax all day, the world is in chaos right now. One then asks our hero, "What do you mean? Did something happen last night during the New Year event?" Our hero just replies by saying, "Just get dressed and I'll explain everything to you when we leave." As the two walk down the silent but empty street this early morning, one looks over at his older brother and couldn't help but feel that something must be really wrong, because for him to have such a serious expression on his face. "I wonder what happened?" As they were walking down the street, our hero then says without stopping, "One, do you really not know what is going on in the world right now?" Startled and feeling uneasy just from the expression and tone of our hero's voice, and says, "Why are you talking like that? Did something happen while I was asleep?" Our hero just nodded and says, "Check the current top searches online right now." As he goes through the top search topics, he gets confused. One then asks, "Angels? What the hell does this even mean? They are saying that an angel kidnapped a bunch of people and took them to another world." Our hero just replies with a nonchalant attitude, "To be more accurate, they only took their souls to the other world." Surprised by the sudden news, one blurts out, "No way! Even you were taken?" Our hero then replies, "Yeah, that is right. I was able to return home after I killed 100 goblins, along with everyone else." Completely shocked by the revelation, one grabs our hero's shoulder and starts yelling, "What? Are you serious? You're not hurt, are you?" Our hero just says, "Calm down, I am completely fine, you don't have to worry about me." Which pisses one off and starts yelling even louder by saying, "What do you even mean? How could I not worry about you?" As one thinks back, in this family of ours, the only person I have left now in this world is you, Hyung. Even when we were little and the only thing I could do was cry for the loss of our parents, but as for you, in order to fill the void from losing mom and dad leaving us behind, you didn't even get to cry, you had to become mentally stronger, for the both of us, just to raise me. With a look of shock and filled with uncertainty, he couldn't help but feel, being strong is one thing and killing 100 monsters are 100% completely different things. He has to have a weak side, right? He is always trying to be strong for the both of us. Our hero then cuts off his train of thoughts by smiling and says, "I know what you are thinking," which confused one even more. Our hero then continues and says, "When they abducted us, they gave us something that was like out of a video game called a system, and with that we can increase our stats and so on, so you can calm down." One then says, "I see. But still." Our hero then says later on, "When you see me," as he keeps walking looking all smug and says, "Soon, you wouldn't even be able to think of a reason to be worried about me at all." One then says, "What do you mean?" Our hero just says, "If you want to know, then keep following me and you will naturally find out." One then stops in his tracks and starts yelling once again, "No! I won't go anywhere until you tell me where we are going," which makes our hero stop walking. As he stops, he then turns around and looks at his younger brother, while one pats his chest and pleads with our hero, "Please, just tell me first." As our hero looks at the back of Wan's hand, he just sighs and decides to give in to his little brother's demands, and says, "Bang Teju." Our hero turns around and starts walking again, but then he stopped and looked over his shoulder and says, "We are going to Bang Teju, to your delinquent class head's hideout."